Hello, welcome to Chess 57, Everyman Chess book reviews. I'll put the contact details downstairs. So if you want to follow these up, and I hope very much that you do, that's where to look. 3 books here, all fairly dense in content, and none of them suitable for beginners or anyone below sort of 1400 ELO. If you are below that level, then probably more general books will be of interest and value to you. I mean, there's nothing to stop you getting these out of the library or not taking a blind word of notice in what I'm saying. But what I would stress is don't go into these situations blind. Now, the Sicilian defense is the most popular reply to 1e4. With 1c5, black comes out fighting. And he continues in similar vein on the back cover. There you are, all in orange. I'm backing up because a little dot has appeared on the screen to tell me the opening repertoire, beating Sicilian main lines. The author is Jonas Hacker. That may be pronounced Jonas, I don't know. Guides the reader through the complexities of the Sicilian and carves out a repertoire for white. He examines all aspects of the highly complex opening and provides the reader with well-researched, fresh, and innovative analysis. Each annotated game has valuable lessons on how to play the opening and contains instructive commentary on typical middle game plans. And it uses the question and answer approach. If you want more information, go to www.everymanchess.com. And this book is $29.95 US, or if you prefer, in the UK, in this country, £19.99, nearly £20. It has 384 pages and an index of games, including some played at the very highest level. 3 games here, played by the world champion. I'm just casting my eye down here to see if any of these were played in the last century. You'll excuse my hesitation because I want to get it right. No, they weren't. Everything here is played in the last 20 years. And there's some very strong players indeed, such as Nigel Short or Shirov or Raga. Yes. As I say, Carlson is also here. And Boo from China. And Bacro of France. And 2 by Anand. Well, am I selling this book to you now, or I'm selling this book to you now? We look at various lines in the Najdorf. But first, he also looks at bringing out the knight after e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, which is common or garden in the open Sicilian. He actually toys with knight f6, which is Georgiou used to play that as a finesse at move 3, and then d takes e4, d takes c5, then knight takes e4, c takes d6, and then it says knight c6. I can't help thinking that knight takes d6 at move 5 is to be preferred, but I don't know. It deals with any amount of unusual stuff also. 5f3, e5, and then d5. Well, how about that? All of that is completely new to me. f3, 5f3, being considered to be maybe a bit slow. It is unconventional, and it looks out for the center. And here's something else which is rather unusual. Again, 5f3, then e5, 6 knight, b3. Yeah, talking about, once again, 5f3, and then a6, and then c4, forming a Maroczy. Or attempting to form Maroczy, I suppose. There's a dragon here, 5g6, against a Maroczy bind. And there's bishop b4 in response. So 6 knight c3, and then bishop b4 coming from black, pinning it, however temporarily. Chapter 7 deals with 4 knight c6, bishop b5, d6, as in Fischer Taimanov in the candidates so long ago. It never hurts to be reminded of classics, does it? The Kalashnikov. So that's 4 e5, knight b5, and then d6. So this is something slightly different and at one time frowned upon. Chapter 9 is the Sveshnikov itself. What we, God, would refer to as the Pelican, but with that. The Scheveningen, if you prefer, chapter 10, with a very small centre, d6 and e6. And he rushes it with 7 h4, rook g1, and he prefers h5 in retaliation. And it is retaliatory too, although he touches also on 8 d5, breaking classically in the centre, as opposed to countering on the same flank. In fact, it's not countering on the flank at all if he goes for the centre, is it? Because that's retaliation. Okay. So there appears to be 11 chapters, and he deals with each of them in turn, obviously. Nothing to frighten us away here. Give you some indication of what the pages look like. It's very modern, using algebraic notation with the figurines. I've never heard of Eunice Hacker. He's from Germany, and he's a coach and FIDE master. And his 5 years teaching experience has worked as a professional coach for about 2 years. So he's a young man with lots of enthusiasm. I don't know whether this is his first book, but it might be. There we are anyway. If you see it, give it your time. The next book is by Perra Brothers, whose surname is hard to pronounce. I'm going to have a run at it. Dokken Jas, John and Joshua. And it has a foreword by Grandmaster Sutovsky, whose name is not so difficult to pronounce, Emil Sutovsky. So there is an endorsement by him. There's also an introduction by Jan Teplitsk. So why it's necessary to be twice endorsed, I don't know. Here's a photograph of the two gentlemen, which, if nothing else, tells you how young they are. One's a national master from Canada, and the other is a FIDE master and teacher, simply still from Canada. They're brothers, and they've been playing the Najdorf for 8 years. During this time, they've analysed the opening deeply, and the fruits of their researches are shared with readers in this book. I couldn't for 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, doubt those words. This book was published 3 years ago, so I've been slow to review it, but that isn't through any want of trying. It has a bibliography. It deals with the English attack, 6 bishop e3, the way that Nigel Short played it, or plays it still. Theoretical paths with 6 bishop g5, the Sicilian with 6 bishop c4, for fans of Bobby Fischer. The classical 6 bishop e2, the fianchetto 6 g3, of course. Patent prophylaxis 6 a4, in other words, an attempt to fix the structure. 6 f4, early skirmish. The Adams attack h3. I'm not certain which Adams that is. I should be ashamed of myself. I'm going to go and look in a minute. And offbeat trails with queen f3, rook g1, h4, bishop d3, and knight b3. In other words, fairly straightforward. I'm just going to look at what is being assigned to the Adams attack. Doesn't say, but I assume it's Mickey Adams. I mean, it could be Weaver Adams. It could be Jimmy Adams, but I don't think it is. Enormous amount of information here. Discussion going ever deeper. And here's some a whole page of explanation of one position, not one move, of course, but one position. There, see that all the way down the page. So I think that's quite impressive. In fact, I think that's very impressive. I'm just a little surprised it doesn't tell me if this is Mickey Adams. With h3, g4, and g5. You will have already grasped the fact that I don't think that this is for the faint-hearted. That's the sort of position you will get. The fianchetto on the king side there. See that? And black in a fairly standard Sicilian position, crouching with the c-pawn exchange off for white's d-pawn. And white, though he has more space, doesn't necessarily... He is obliged to defend such space as he has, as well as to attack. And to win the game is not, repeat, not his birthright. This game by Tiviakov from the Dutch Championships. And there's some question and answer. I'll give you an example. Why doesn't white hold on to his extra pawn with 17 queen d3? In other words, why does he come back with his queen? Look at this. He goes from queen here to queen here in the actual game. But the author, Mr. Hacker, says, well, presumably, couldn't he have hung on to his pawn? If he did that, the rook on c8 couldn't capture it on c2. I think that's what he's meaning. Just have a quick look. I hate to say that it was wrong, but I think that's what it is. Yes, if he comes back, he can play queen c7. He wouldn't take on c2 because the queen is now guarding it on d3. So I was right that it was a rook move, but I was wrong. Just looking at it superficially and sideways. In fact, in the end, the queen does end up on c2. There we are. I wasn't a million miles out, was I? I think that's forgivable. There we are. The book is $19.99, so the same price as the other one I was looking at. Everyman have tried to hold down their prices. You can't blame them. If there's a bit of variation or what you will. I've never heard of the author. I can only say the authors. They haven't written other things. There we are. Now we come to the most controversial and difficult to judge of the three. This is called Mastering Chess Logic. I've dealt with this before online, just remembered, but I don't care. I'm going to do it again. Mastering Chess Logic. What exactly makes the greatest players of all time, such as Carlsen, Bobby Fischer, and Garry Kasparov, stand out from the rest? What to think about when evaluating a position, how to formulate and execute plans. That for me is terribly difficult. I've been playing chess for over 50 years and I still struggle from about move 6 or 7. Pitiful, isn't it? But I do. The reader also has plenty of opportunities to test their decision making by attempting 270 practical exercises. Let's look at that first in a way. So they give a position like this. There we are. They tell you whose move it is and what event it was played in, like that, over the top. So it has a good header. You know where you know what your feet are on the ground. And you have to find a plan. So 259, I'll just look it up, see how easy it is to not just understand it, but explain it to you. Black's technically bad bishop is actually superior to White's good one because it's actively positioned on the b1 h7 diagonal. Yes, I suppose that's true. Okay, accept that. The black pawns on light squares also hinder White's bishop more than Black's. Right. Thus, White should exchange bishops with a roughly equal position. Do you think that's about equal, that position? No, I think White is both players have pushed pawns a little bit indiscriminately on the king side. So there's the position. Can you see it? Can you see it? There it is. There. White's king is safe-ish, but in rather an odd sort of little cyst. And Black has come forward with the pawns, which are now locked on white squares, which doesn't say a lot for his white squared bishop, except that it is defending, and the knight is in its turn defending the bishop. So all's happy in the garden, until such time as it's not. This is very few classical games at the highest level. It's got Geller Erver from Zurich 53, a game of Bobby Fischer's from Reykjavik 72, Botvinnik Capablanca, Netherlands, that's the Avro tournament, isn't it? And so won by Tal from Tallinn 79, good year for Tal. They weren't all good years for Tal either. And the rest are either by the authors or their colleagues. And there's a game by Hydra against Ponomaryov, who was for about 20 seconds world champion, wasn't he? I don't know how long, genuinely. I don't know. In stark contrast, the past few cases of a practical build-up by someone outside the top echelon of chess, I've elected to finish the chapter with an example of one of the most breathtaking games ever played. You may remember that our previous discussions have have lifted significance away from imitating computers, as engines do not rationalize their moves, and the sheer depth that they can reach is entirely unachievable for humans in actual games. You're telling me it is. You see, you will find things you will agree with. Although some of the moves played in this game may make it appear somewhat conflicting to the objectives of the book, I believe this nevertheless demonstrates tremendous educational value and consistent play that we can learn from. I'll bet that's true. And it's a line in the French defence with 7A4 against the Tarash, with a locked centre and extremely committal 8C4. I'll show you this position. You might not get it. I think you will get it. There it is. There it is. Mr. Melzer says I don't hold the book very steady or for long enough, particularly long enough. Mr. Melzer is, of course, correct. There you go. And he's just played A5. See that? Pawn A5. Black's played. A little probe. Maybe quite a big probe, actually. And the answers with the explanations of the sort I read out, and some of them are quite short, 5 or 6 on a page. It's required to be. This is rather like the book Larson's Good Move Guide, where it gives some positions and then you're called upon to just comment. For my own part, it's nice to think that this book could be useful. I think any competitive mind would like to look through it. There's again Kasparov, Anderson, Tilburg, 1981, from 40 years ago. What a long time ago that seems, and yet I remember it as if it was yesterday. Yes, I think of the 3 books I've shown, this is perhaps the one that will be the most useful to me. This game was played in the prestigious US Junior Championships of St. Louis Chess Club. And one of my more memorable events. I had a lot of fun with my peers there and scored a respectable 6.5 out of 9. Well, I hate to tell you this, but it's not that prestigious. Mise en place. What on earth does that mean? Perhaps I should look it up in a dictionary. I've got some dictionaries here. I don't feel inclined. Whilst on camera, I think that would just put people off. Once again, you can see the depth of the commentary. But I see nothing here that should frighten you away. Mr. Henzo has said hello to me in the chat. Hello, Mr. Henzo. If he or anybody else is listening to this live and would like some further clarification, please feel free to ask. I'll just go through, just look at the content. Building blocks. Hear know what you have. Mise en place, which is what I explained. The big game, beginning and end, and solutions, an index of complete games. Clearly, the emphasis is on position, psychology, and thinking clearly and carefully. And as I said before, when I featured this, I really like the cover. Well, there you are. It's slightly cheaper than the other 2 I've just trailered. It's $27.95 US dollars or $18.99 UK pounds. Thank you very much. This is James Pratt. signing off.